South Africa loves a good commission of inquiry. We've had commissions about state capture, commissions about corruption, commissions about commissions, but the Madlanga Commission is different, because this one is looking at the criminal justice system itself, and whether politics has infected the very backbone of law and order in this country. And who better to open the testimony than KwaZulu-Natal's top cop, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Now, if you don't know Mkhwanazi, let me paint the picture. He's not just another uniform with medals on the chest. He's the man who's been walking a very thin line in one of the most volatile provinces in South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal. A place where political killings are not the stuff of Hollywood thrillers, but an everyday fear for councillors, mayors, and even up-and-coming party members. So when he takes the stand at the Madlanga Commission, you know it's not small talk. It's about life, death, and whether South Africa's justice system has the backbone to survive. First up, he talked about the Political Killings Task Team. This was the specialized unit set up to deal with the plague of assassinations in KwaZulu-Natal. At its height, the task team scored some wins: arrests, cases solved, networks disrupted. But here's the problem. It was recently disbanded by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. Yes, disbanded. Just as the killings have been rising again. Mkhwanazi didn't sugarcoat it. He admitted the team had issues, lack of resources, internal battles, and the occasional political hand trying to steer where it shouldn't. But he also pointed out that when it worked, it gave real hope. Now that it's gone, well, that hope is looking pretty shaky. Then came the history lesson, but not the boring kind. Mkhwanazi reminded the commission that political violence in KwaZulu-Natal isn't new. From the bloody battles between ANC and IFP supporters in the 80s and 90s, to today's disputes over tenders and local power, the thread is chillingly consistent. Political office here can be a death sentence, and recent attacks show the problem hasn't gone away. It's just changed clothes. Instead of open street battles, it's targeted assassinations, often carried out with military precision. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Mkhwanazi dropped the bombshell that there is political interference in policing structures. Translation? Politicians trying to tell the police who to investigate, who to leave alone, and sometimes who to protect. That's like letting the fox choose which chickens should be guarded at night. It's not just corruption, it's sabotage from the inside. And if you've ever wondered why some cases seem to drag on forever, or why certain big names never face charges despite mountains of allegations, this is the answer. Finally, his warning. And it was not the kind of warning you shrug off. Mkhwanazi told the commission straight, unless urgent reforms are made, South Africa's justice system risks total collapse. Think about that. Collapse. The police already face trust issues. The courts are overloaded, and prisons are bursting. If political interference continues, and if units like the Political Killings Task Team are scrapped instead of strengthened, the entire system could crumble. And when that happens, it's not just politicians who are at risk. It's every single citizen who counts on the rule of law to keep order. So what did we learn from day one at the Madlanga Commission? That South Africa's justice system is standing on very thin ice. That political killings are not a distant memory, but a present danger. That the people we trust to uphold the law are often being undermined by the very leaders they're supposed to serve. And that unless we act fast, collapse isn't just a possibility. It's a countdown. Now, I know this sounds heavy, and it is, but it's also a wake-up call. Because if there's one thing South Africans have shown over and over again, it's resilience. The question is, will those in power finally find the will to fix a system that's cracking at the seams? Or will we keep holding commissions until there's nothing left to commission about? Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning of the Madlanga Commission, and if Mkhwanazi's testimony is anything to go by, things are about to get very, very real.
In the first few paragraphs of your statement, and if you could follow the orders you have set them out in your statement, you provide a general background to what you will eventually speak to, which is the actual involvement of the task team in that operation. So if you could start from paragraph 99 with the events of the 17th of April 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will start with the incident that happened, which I had presented before the South Africans on the 6th of July, was that a shooting incident that occurred, which led into the death of an employee of a Q-Tech engineering company that is based in Vereeniging in Gauteng, where a late Mr. Aman Swart was killed while he was in his vehicle outside the workplace. What we understand is that the subsequent to that shooting, which was involving the Transnet contract, it seems to have involved organized crime, and to some degree it had involved police corruption, which had posed the risk to the investigation team that was dealing with that incident. So I was advised that the organized crime unit, which had taken over that investigation, were operating under the leadership of the Deputy Provincial Commissioner in Gauteng, who is responsible for investigation, and that is Major General Khumalo. And this investigation became part of the wider investigation which took place subsequent to that incident in Gauteng, which it is called the Gauteng Counterintelligence Operation, GCI Ops. After the shooting incident that occurred in April 2024, 3 suspects were arrested as a result of that investigation. Amongst the 3 suspects, or the names of the 3 suspects, one of them at the time was a police officer, Michael Puletau. He was arrested together with 2 individuals, Musa Kekana as well as Tiago Floyd Deni Mabusela. So the charges that were leveled against them, they varied from murder, conspiracy, attempted murder, possession of suspected stolen property, as well as the possession of unlicensed firearm and ammunition. Through forensic analysis, those firearms were linked with multiple other murders other than the one that occurred of Mr. Swart. So when the forensic analyzed these firearms, it just strengthened the case against the accused and exposing these accused to a wider syndicate which had significant access to finance, and at times, because there were a lot of money that were being paid for the jobs that they were doing. I'm told that when the SAPS had to appear in court on this arrest of the 3, they did everything possible to oppose bail of these suspects. But unfortunately, Mr. Puleta was later granted bail. And the reason he has cited at the time was his health condition. And this sparked grave concern amongst investigators, as well as the prosecution team, because they started fearing their lives, and the threat towards their lives started escalating. And those threats were coming verbally, in some instances physical intimidations. And at times, I'm told that they were being followed as they were moving around. As I said, this suspect was a police officer at the time. So upon his release, he resigned from the service immediately. In August...
Apologies, General, you say upon his release, or is it upon his release on bail? On bail.
Upon his release on bail, when he had made an application citing health reasons, and he was released on bail, he resigned from the police. So his resignation was captured as dishonorable from the service.
Thank you.
So as a result, in August, Ms. Kutsie, who was a senior prosecutor, directed a correspondence to the head of the team that was investigating at the time, a team of organized crime, which was led by a Brigadier Hopabe, who was heading the organized crime in Gauteng province, as well as her commander, which is the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Crime Detection, Major General Kumalo. And that correspondence was also addressed to the Provincial Commissioner of Gauteng, Lieutenant General Mthombe. The same correspondence was addressed to the Deputy National Commissioner, Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Sibia, and the National Commissioner was a recipient of the same correspondence. So in this correspondence, Ms. Kutsie, who is a senior public prosecutor, formally expressed the threats being faced by the investigating team, by those that are accused of the crime of murder of Mr. Swart, together with the associates that are involved. And the advocate requested an urgent protection for 2 investigators that are part of the investigation team.
Before you proceed, you reference a letter there which you have annexed as MK8. Can we perhaps, as you go through that part of the testimony, turn to the actual annexure? MK8 chair starts at page 181 of file 2. And perhaps in addressing the concerns raised by Mrs. Kutsie, it might be appropriate to read some aspects of the letter. She has itemized the issues, and I would like to refer you specifically to some to buttress the evidence you just given. Do you have the letter before you?
Yes, Commissioner, I have the letter.
If you could start from paragraph 4 to 6 of Mrs. Kutsie's letter. And read that into the record, sorry.
Okay, Commissioner, on this letter from the Ms. Kutsie, the prosecutor, paragraph 4 reads, I quote, investigations have also revealed that the assassination is directly linked to whistleblowing to the hotline of Transnet, which involved millions of rands of corrupt activities. Paragraph 5, the investigation also revealed that the firearms used during commission of the assassination and found in their positions are linked to multiple assassinations and serious violent crime scenes. Paragraph 6 reads that the cell phones linkage investigation have revealed high-profile organized crime and crime scene planning. End quote.
And these are some of the concerns that Mrs. Kutsie raised. If I refer you to the next page of the same letter, that speaks to the bail application that was granted in respect of former police officer, Mr. Tau.
Sorry, you will have to repeat that at a later stage. General, also read paragraph 3 into the record, please.
Thanks, Commissioner. Paragraph 3 of this letter reads as follows. The investigation has proven that all 3 accused are involved in a serious organized crime syndicate, of which almost R1 million was offered for the assassination in this regard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for pointing it out. It's an important aspect. It's one that the next witnesses in particular will concentrate on, and we appreciate that it be brought to the fore. Getting back to the issue then, General, at page 183, item 10. Item 10 concerns the bail application that you referenced. Let me start here. It's correct that that was the bail application in which Mr. Officer Dau was successful. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It was the same bail application. Was it the same bail application in respect of the other two accused in that matter? Would you know?
Because I was not part of it, I was reading from the letter.
Okay.
Yes.
Now then, just paragraph 10 seems to reflect concerns regarding how the magistrate dealt with that application. So if I may request you to read that into the record.
The entire paragraph 10 reads as follows. There's a letter from Ms. Kutse, the Senior Prosecutor, Regional Court, Vereeniging. The magistrate, for some bizarre and unexplainable reason, decided to grant Dau bail of 10,000 rand and place him under house arrest. The reality of the situation is that there is nobody who can watch over him 24/7 to ensure that he does in fact comply with the conditions. It is actually unenforceable. The prosecution has already spoken to the DPP to appeal the decision of the magistrate, and we just await the typed court recordings of the bail application to be present to the DPP to file the appeal.
And paragraph 11 and 13 then of the same letter on the same page specifically address the issues regarding Officer Dau. So if you could just proceed to read those two.
Paragraph 11 reads, the investigation has revealed that Dau is one of the main organizers behind this organized crime syndicate. His release on bail has intensified the danger of the safety of the investigation team, especially Mbele and Sithole, who are the people who made statements in the case, and they were the well-known faces who attended every court session. Mbele has been identified as the investigating officer, as she has presented detailed sworn statement to oppose the first and the second bail application. During the first few court sessions, the investigation team was actually followed from the court building, and many threats have been made inside the courtroom by the family and friends, and threats have been received via informers and even from the high-ranking police officer in the Rand area. Paragraph 13 reads, Dau clearly has a very large support system, and large amount of money are spent to obtain the best and most expensive advocates. The money is clearly coming from the syndicate, as all three accused are currently unemployed.
And lastly then, in paragraphs 14 and 15, Mrs. Kutse addresses the question of how the investigations have been conducted, and lastly, the state. Apologies, I'm not on record, I'll have to start again. I request you to then turn to paragraphs 14 and 15, and the first speaks to Mrs. Kutse's view on how the case is progressing and it's been conducted, and 15 speaks to the danger that is now confronted, that now confronts the detectives.
14, Commissioner, reads as follows. The case is brilliantly investigated, and the accused are 100% connected to all the charges against them. They obviously face long terms of imprisonment as well as defined life sentence for the assassination. Number 15 reads, from the above mentioned, it is clear that the lives of the investigating officers are currently in grave danger, as well as the safety of police dockets.
And I see at 16, final paragraph, it's a direct now request to the addressees in that letter?
The specific address request that is on this letter, Commissioner, on paragraph 16 reads, "You are requested to urgently arrange for the safeguarding of especially Mbele and Sithole. There is a real danger that their lives are in extreme danger, as these organized criminals will do everything in their ability to try and destroy the evidence against them and or to seriously derail the trial. It has just now become so much easier with now having unlimited access to technology and his syndicate's friends and family."
Thank you. From paragraph 105 of your statement, then at page 36, you then deal with what transpired after receipt of this letter, particularly from General Khumalo's perspective, if you could pick it up from there.
Commissioner, I had mentioned that General Khumalo, who was the leader or was a project manager of the political task team in KZN, had been appointed as a Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence. Through the formal sub-channels, the request that was provided to the head of investigation in the province, which is also a Major General Khumalo, that Khumalo requested crime intelligence, which fell under a Major General Lekalakala in Gauteng, who is responsible for crime intelligence in Gauteng, was requested to conduct the threat assessment as a result of this letter. And the threat assessment was then assigned to Colonel Nduli, who works under crime intelligence. Colonel Nduli's findings were that the risk was high and they recommended 24-hour protection. In addition to what Colonel Nduli requested was that Lieutenant General Khumalo need to be informed. And after General Khumalo, as the head of crime intelligence, who was responsible for this threat assessment, after he was informed, the case, this resulted into the case being moved to the national office, and therefore the counterintelligence had to be involved, which then resulted into the case within counterintelligence of crime intelligence being registered to run parallel to this case of Vereeniging. So Lieutenant General Khumalo, as the head of crime intelligence, after being briefed about this threat, he then tasked counterintelligence to register a case so they can run an investigation parallel to what was sitting in court already in Vereeniging.
And then your paragraph 106, you basically summarize what you have read into the record from Ms. Kotsie's letter. And at paragraph 107, you summarize the impact of the claims by Ms. Kotsie in her letter. And if you could take the commission through that.
Given the apparent association of the SAPS officials of all ranks with persons who are subject of investigation, the threat made against investigators and allegations that were leveled against the magistrate of bribery, established links to members of the cartel that were under investigation, a growing concern of infiltration of police, and the reduction of the investigation team, which at the time there were 5 members, and they were reduced to 2.
May I interrupt you, and I do apologize. A bit of a misstep. I skipped paragraph 106, which actually reflects information you subsequently obtained over and above what Mrs. Kotsie complained of. And you indicate that through the investigative efforts involving now counterintelligence, you came to learn of other information. So if I can ask that we take a step back to paragraph 106. My mistake, I apologize.
Yes, Commissioner, in this paragraph, I was trying to indicate, which I in time came to learn, that through the investigation, that the challenges, various challenges were experienced by the investigation team, which will include a deliberate omission of crucial information which the detectives were expecting to come from forensic services. Forensic services is within the police, who are charged with the responsibility of assisting the investigators with analysis of those firearms that were found. So these investigators of this organized crime team, they started experiencing the omission of some critical information that the forensic service is supposed to be providing to them. And not only that, these investigators will start interacting, will be invited to some meetings by senior officials in the South African Police Service, who then started engaging on the case that these members were investigating. And amongst those engagements they started having with senior officers within the South African Police Service, I must indicate that those engagements were not necessarily largely in Gauteng province, as these members were working under Gauteng province, but they were invited by senior officers at the head office of detective services. At times there would be, there were monies, bribes that were offered to them, not to oppose bail. In some cases that involved Dow, especially in the main. And so the detectives, in the course of the investigation, they felt threatened as these engagements that were happening with the senior officers seems to indicate that there is a high level of connection between the accused or the suspects and senior officials within the police at the head office in the main within detective environment. Moreover, during the period of the incarceration and while on bail, the accused, who's a former police officer, a former detective, Michael Puletau, had made threats against the very same investigation team.
Before
yes,
the general proceeds, Advocate Sillo, as you are aware, the ordinary rules of evidence applicable in court proceedings do not apply to this commission.
Indeed, yeah.
In terms of the commission's regulations. But I would imagine that that notwithstanding, the probative value of the evidence may be negatively impacted. A lot of the evidence in this context is hearsay. Must we assume that down the line it will be corroborated?
In fact, that answer is part answered by the next paragraph, which is what I jumped to. So if I can permit him to conclude, he will then speak of his source of the information, and then I can address the question of the availability of the source.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So then, General, that leads us into paragraph 107. So if you could summarize that paragraph 107, and you, in that narrative, disclose your source of information, of the information you just set out before the commissioners.
Commissioner, as I said earlier, that Lieutenant General Khumalo was the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence. Major General Likalakala was the head of intelligence, or is the head of intelligence in Gauteng province. Colonel Nduli worked under Likalakala. So Nduli conducted threat assessment, and subsequent to that, Lieutenant General Khumalo at the division is informed. General Khumalo established an investigation, register an investigation under counterintelligence, which runs parallel to this, in order to establish this threat, to try and investigate it further. But when these threats were presented to him towards these two detectives that were remaining in the team, he then felt that it is important for a special intervention to be made in order to protect these two investigators. So it is for that reason that General Khumalo felt that he needs to request support from law enforcement who falls outside Gauteng province in order to make sure that the work of these two detectives is protected parallel to the work that he already started from counterintelligence.
And then if you could take it through to paragraph 108, then I will get back to the chairperson's question.
Yeah. Commissioner, the assistant that was required by General Khumalo was of a highly specialized team that was to be deployed in Gauteng to assist in order to ensure that the investigation advanced swiftly. I can indicate, as I said earlier, that Lieutenant General Khumalo requested that a team of members from KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team be seconded to his investigation team, which was a Gauteng counterintelligence operations, in order to assist with the investigation. So he was specific as he was asking when he contacted me over the phone. In that request, when he was discussing with me, he ought to have explained the reason behind this. Counterintelligence is more of a covert operation. So it is the work that ordinarily we don't account to in an open portfolio committee in the police, but through the Joint Standing Committee, that's how they account. So he gave me an explanation that will justify why he needs this specialization to come and assist.
If I may then refer the chairperson, at paragraph 107 read with 108, those two paragraphs speak to an engagement and a direct request by Lieutenant General Khumalo to General Mkhwanazi regarding assistance. Thank you, Chair. And having pointed that out, if you could just skip to paragraph 156 and 157. And in the context of where the witness started describing the nature of his testimony and perhaps evidence that would be available to the commission. 156, he makes the point that the bulk of the information that informs the work of the commission relies on ongoing investigations, and as such cannot be disclosed publicly, as this would adversely affect these investigations. Having pointed that out, however, at 157, he gives assurance to the commission that full disclosure of all relevant facts will be made at subsequent in-camera hearings. So to your question, there will be corroboration. It would just be a question of the extent to which that would be held in public or in camera. Because of the possibility of some of it being in camera, I'm not in a position to say as to which witness will be available for that session. Yes.
General Mkhwanazi?
Yes.
What you speak to in paragraph 106, what you're detailing there, is this information that you received in the course of formal engagements with whoever the sources are, or it's informal? I just want to know where do we place it?
Commissioner, when I raised the issue of the engagement that I had with Lieutenant General Khumalo, as is outlined on paragraph 108, where he called me and asking for assistance, he then explained what led into him asking. Hence, I bring those.
Thank you.
On 106.
Thank you, Chair. You spoke of two detectives in paragraph 107, but I think you overlooked an important aspect regarding the two detectives. Would you like to highlight that?
I must indicate that, Commissioner, there were 5 altogether. And what made this threat to be high was because there was a reduction of the number of investigators into that case of Vereeniging from 5 to 2. Well, of course, we don't know the reasons as to what led into that. So part of the threat was that the team that was busy with this investigation felt that they can protect themselves because there's quite a lot of them, but suddenly they are reduced to 2. And that made them feel more vulnerable. And as a result, and in part, the death threats were made on them. And there was also this growing concern about infiltration of the police, which might have led into the reduction of these number of detectives that they deployed.
Let's turn then to the request made to you by Lieutenant General Khumalo. Could you give a brief description of the nature of the request?
Commissioner, Lieutenant General Khumalo, if you remember, if you recall, I mentioned earlier that he has been with the political killings task team from inception in 2018. So he understands the methodology of operations that we are running within the political task team and different disciplines and expertise that are sitting there. The Commissioner made the reference to paragraph 93 about the achievement of the team, which has been reflected on the successes that they've made over time. So he was well aware that if anyone that is going to be able to help the 2 detectives from Gauteng, they better come from that team because it's well equipped and he understands how they operate. So that's why he approached me and he asked me if I can release some of these investigators to come to Gauteng so they can assist.
And how many did he request and for what purpose?
He requested 10 of them, and they had specific purpose that they were going to, specific roles they were going to play. Amongst the 10 will include a commander that was going to be in charge of the team, the analyst that were going to assist the team, the investigators, including the digital forensic investigators, ballistic analysts, crime scene experts, as well as a designated firearm officer and cell phone data analysis. These are all the disciplines that he was specific on, considering that there were cell phones and there were firearms that were involved in this investigation, and he needed to have all these people that will assist with the investigation.
And what was your response to the request by General Khumalo?
I granted approval for him. I must indicate, in me granting approval for the team to go, as I said earlier, it was over the phone communication between me and him. And he was requesting because he had already registered a covert investigation. So when you do covert investigation in normal sense of things, you don't throw out written correspondences that can be traced. Because then it will be known that these are the people that are moving to this direction to do the work. So they moved and fell under that covert operation, and they went to Gauteng. That was between me and him. Of course, the general is reporting at the national level. I'll assume, as he's going to appear before the commission, he will be able to explain the level of engagement that he was having with the National Commission in this regard.
And at paragraph 112, you point out a significant point regarding their deployment.
Yeah, that's correct. The 10 became the 10 members from the political killings task team.
So at 111.
Well, due to the sensitive nature of the identities, as I said, because they were involved in the covert operations, therefore, I cannot be able to indicate the identities of the 12 who are they, but we have them on record maybe during the in-camera discussion, we might, if need be, discuss that.
So we're at a point now where you have approved the deployment of the 10 task team members to the Gauteng counterintelligence ops. Upon being released and accepted into GCI ops, what becomes of these 10 people? How do they operate?
GCI ops being the project that is running in Gauteng, the 10 members from the political killing task team became part of the operation, the GCI operation. So they then operated under the banner of the GCI ops Gauteng.
I take it that in that role, there would then be dockets in the normal course of police work and investigations. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioners. You'll recall that Vereeniging incident had happened, and it was part of the organized crime Gauteng, where these threats originated from a parallel investigation established by counterintelligence from the division side, and all these dockets that were registered in this project in Gauteng, they fell under Gauteng province, and KZN had no business on it. But because the 10 members that came to Gauteng are coming from KZN, they became part of that investigation, and those case dockets belong to Gauteng province. They're not under KwaZulu-Natal.
So you say they were not under KwaZulu-Natal. Could it be said that could the political killings task team claim ownership of those dockets that were being investigated under the GCI ops with the assistance of the 10 task team members?
No, negative, Commissioner. The members, when they left KwaZulu-Natal, they only left with their tactical equipment only. The investigation that was conducted in KwaZulu-Natal remained with the political killing task team in KwaZulu-Natal. So the 10 that moved to Gauteng, they moved similar to the group that had moved to Fort Hare in Eastern Cape. So they did not go with dockets. Those that went to Eastern Cape had gone there without dockets. They registered dockets in Eastern Cape. It became Eastern Cape dockets.